What's up, everybody, and welcome to ITG Daily, the show that brings you the hottest in gaming news. I'm Drew Bosley. You can find me on Twitter at ArtisticGamer28, and that's the one, the only, making his return. It is Scott Savage. You see him on Twitter at Savage. Scott, dude, how was the weekend, man?
Oh, it's just been a long blur of a lot of shooting and explosions. That's gonna be my life for a couple weeks now.
That seems to be it's the holiday season of shooters.
That's right.
Unfortunately, not all good, but not all bad either. There's a lot to get into what's going on there. But everybody can always join us live over on twitch.tv/theofficialITG, as well as YouTube at Inside the Game Official. You can't join us live. Hit us up later. InsideTheGame.ca, podcast services, TV streaming networks around the globe. Scott, we got a banger of a show today. Marvel's Avengers SpiderMan DLC could be a swing and a miss. Battlefield 2042 is one of the worst reviewed games on Steam in its history, and Xbox Game Pass leaks a massive trilogy. You ready to get going today?
Oh, I'm ready for this one. There's some big topics I'd almost rather not speak about, but let's get into it.
There we go again, because Marvel Avengers Spider-Man DLC has no story missions. What? Somebody explain to me what is going on. Well, Matt Purslow over at IGN is about to explain it, because Marvel's Avengers upcoming Spider-Man DLC will not feature story missions like those seen in the Kate Bishop, Hawkeye, and Black Panther updates. Dude, I called this. I said this is exactly what we're gonna get. We're not gonna get a good DLC here whatsoever, because why? Because it's only on PlayStation, and they don't want to tick off anybody else who doesn't have access to Spider-Man. But then we go into further details. Rather than a short campaign with bespoke missions, Avengers Spider-Man with great power story is told through audio logs and illustrated cutscenes that are unlocked by completing challenges that have been added to the regular Avengers Initiative multiplayer missions. Working through these challenges gradually unfolds a story in which Spider-Man uncovers AIM's new plan to upgrade their symbiote army. Dude, the symbiote army is... I gotta take a minute, Scott. What a misstep.
Not a big fan of that.
I'm just not...
Well, I'm wondering, what does the Initiative multiplayer exactly entail? Okay. Isn't that story missions?
Let me give you the rundown of how Avengers works. To jump into the multiplayer component, you go into Marvel's initiatives, which is allow you to group up and go out and hit up story content, other missions, but we're not getting a DLC drop like Kate Bishop, where you had a full-fledged maybe 2-3 hours worth of content. Then you got Hawkeye, right? We had Hawkeye, same thing. Then we had a massive update with War of Wakanda, the Black Panther DLC, which was fantastic. And then after that, Steve and I wrapped that up like we always cover here on the show. And now we sit back and wait, what are we going to do next for Avengers? Well, this is where things kind of go a little south for us, because talking to IGN, Avengers game director Philippe Therian explained why Crystal Dynamics chose this direction. Quote, "We want to spend our efforts on content that everyone can enjoy." There's the first part right there.
There it is, yeah.
So we chose to spend a lot of our energy on the Claw raid that's coming up at the same time. End quote, he said. Dude, I appreciate you wanted to spend a ton of time there, but this is a huge missed opportunity with partnering with Marvel, putting the Spider-Man brand on your game, and you went to focus on a raid. That could be good, or it could be awful. We don't know, right? We haven't had hands on with the raid yet. I'm expecting it to be good. I'm expecting to have a good time. But if that's what your focus is on, maybe you should have waited until 2022 for the Spider-Man DLC, because, quote, really, that's a simple decision for us. Spider-Man can play all the content, but then we release a piece of content that's good on all platforms. Really, that was the decision that's been that way since the beginning, end quote, he concluded. Scott, this is a huge miss. A complete miss.
Well, like you said, there's one chance to bring out the Spider-Man DLC, and there was many opportunities into the future to bring out a raid as well. Yeah. And I kind of the opinion there should have been a raid there already. But like you said, why not delay the Spider-Man thing a little bit if you really want to focus on that raid?
Well, as Northern Nerdcast joins us over at Twitch, it says there's legit no reason for this to have taken this long then. He's absolutely right. Why has there been such a delay in Spider-Man? Because you've been working on Kate, you've been working on Hawkeye, you've been working on Black Panther. Black Panther being easily the biggest DLC drop we've had for Marvel Avengers. But then Spider-Man is just here's a character. That's all Spider-Man is. It's here's a character practically, right? Now there's going to be other things to it, but at the simplicity of what we get over in the world of PlayStation, I chose PlayStation because Spider-Man was coming here, and this is what we got. I'm excited for Spider-Man, don't get me wrong, but I'm a little underwhelmed, Scott, is how I will phrase that.
Yeah.
And the fact that there's a lack of a good, solid story and expansion here. I understand that is an exclusive right for PlayStation with Spider-Man, and that Xbox and PC fans aren't going to get their hands on it. I appreciate that. But this is a slap in the face to PlayStation fans.
Yeah, well, it really is. You chose PlayStation and you kind of traded multiplayer with us on Xbox in that
I did
trade-off, but now you're not getting the payback. It's that's frustrating.
Time will tell, Scott, if I made the right decision. But until then, you know who hasn't made the right decision? That's DICE. Because Battlefield 2042 is now one of the worst reviewed games in Steam history. Yikes. This comes from Zach over at Kotaku. EA and DICE's large-scale FPS has ranked up nearly 30,000 negative reviews on Valve's digital storefront. Wow. Yikes. Battlefield 2042, officially released just 2 days ago, this is as of writing, is now one of the worst reviewed games on Steam with over 30,000 negative reviews. Currently sits as the 8th lowest rated game on Steam. As spotted by Forbes via the Steam 250 website, the game has now entered the top 10 worst reviewed games on the Steam list, currently at number 8. And as more players review the game negatively, it will likely move up that list. Nothing, though, is worse than the eFootball 2022. So,
I was wondering.
That apparently is the worst one. Scott, your thoughts? You and Steve just reviewed Battlefield 2042. Not going so well in the world of Steam.
No, and that's unfortunate because Steam may be the best performing of the versions. I'm not certain on that.
Yeah.
I've played on the Series X, and it's just very underwhelming. To put it in the most flattering terms, it's just not what I'm used to out of Battlefield, and there's a lot of missing pieces. And there is a review pending that'll be up very shortly, but. Oh, it hurts.
Which is too bad because I know our entire team was excited to jump into this. And
I've played every Battlefield all the way back, and I had such high hopes for this one.
Which is just, man, how do they keep missing the mark, Scott? That's my biggest thing, is they just keep one game release after another. We've seen the faults and the falters of what happens when you missed your mark. And now here's EA, here's DICE once again fumbling at the launch of a title. Like, this is another one, dude.
No company is too large to just totally bungle a release. It happens to just about anyone. But
sure,
I wonder why the release window stayed where it was. That things got populated in November and Halo got moved to December. It's just a very tight window, and I really don't know why they stuck to that instead of delaying in favor of fixing.
Well, do you think it's because it's the holiday season? They have to be there. It's the holiday season. Stockholders are saying, yeah, you need to make it in time for everybody because they're going to want to get it for the holidays. The problem is you put it out for the holidays and no one cares because the game is garbage, right? That's the bottom line, is it comes out and doesn't work. Missing that feature. You have that bug, that this, that, and the other. And it's a misstep all along the way. Dude, every time right now, I don't have the faith in DICE. That's the biggest thing. It comes down to every time they launch a game, it doesn't work the way it's supposed to. And you got to wait 2 years before it actually gets up and running to where we all have our standards set. And that is sad. I understand. Go ahead, Scott.
I'm wondering if in a year we get an apology single player campaign.
Oh,
I would like that,
yes.
but not as much as I would have liked a functioning multiplayer.
It's just, yeah, it's unfortunate. I just don't understand what's going on. Again, as I said, Dice launches another one, and it's just another falter, and it just doesn't seem to work properly. And I don't understand why. That's my biggest thing is why are we getting games released that don't work? Right?
Mm-hmm.
We saw such a fumble with CD Projekt Red, and we are always going to go back to Cyberpunk 2077 because of how bad that game released. Now, yeah, they fixed portions of it, but they're still not bringing over the next gen
Actually, that reminds me that I believe that game is down to $10 at Target right now.
So that tells you where the game lies. It's just, it's unfortunate, right? But I feel Battlefield is going the same route. Dude, you give this 2 more weeks, 3 weeks? No. How big is this populated game going to be? Is it going to be that bad? Or are the people just going to get fed up? Or are they going to stick around and kind of fight through all the bugs, the glitches, and the hiccups, right? So it's just, man.
Well, unfortunately, because of Battlefield Portal, you may discover that you enjoy Bad Company 2 more. Or Battlefield 3 more. Those are in the game. So if those work and they're stable and the levels are great, well, some people are just going to turn back.
Yeah, no, that's fair. Hey, Flat 2 Dave, what's going on? Thank you for joining us over on YouTube. Dude, it's just I don't get it. I just don't understand what's going on. And we just see one falter after a studio after another. And a studio that we trusted, right? And it kind of brings us into where we're heading next. And our conversation is going to continue as we get into massive leaks over with the Xbox Game Pass. Reveals one of the biggest trilogies of all time coming over there. This comes from Tyler Fisher over at, I want to say it's comicbook.com. I did not put it in there. I should have. That's my bad. I'm pretty sure it's comicbook.com, though. We see Tyler all the time on here. A new Xbox Game Pass leak has revealed that one of the game's best ever trilogies is being added to the subscription service on Xbox One, Xbox Series X, the whole Xbox family, and PC. we do this every week, Scott.
It's hard to stumble through them all. I know. There's too many games.
In others, the few words, it looks like Xbox Game Pass is adding Mass Effect Legendary Edition. This came from a leak over on actual Xbox. Whoops. So here's the biggest thing. We don't know if it's coming through the EA Play program they have partnered with Xbox, or if it's just Xbox coming over in that sense. So if it is through EA Play, the only way to get it is through Xbox Game Pass Ultimate Edition. So there is that. But Scott, one of the biggest trilogies probably ever made is making its way to Game Pass, and it's the remastered edition. What are your thoughts on that?
Oh, this is one that kind of passed me by. Not the first time around. I love those games. But to see them re-released was something that excited me, but I didn't have the time or the ability to grab it at the time. So now if this goes to Game Pass, I'm super excited for myself and also others that didn't go through it the first time. I think that was the mid-2000s, maybe the late 2000s, where that was when I went through that trilogy. But there's a lot of gamers that have not yet experienced it and should, in my opinion. Now, some of them are not going to like it, such as yourself.
I couldn't get into it, man.
You can't win them all. They're not for everybody.
That's the biggest thing for me. I really wanted to get into the Mass Effect trilogy. And I thought, okay, they're going to remaster the game. Here's my chance. And it was still the same clunky gameplay. And that's what threw me off. I'm like, man, I couldn't get in past the first game. And if you're going to play a trilogy, Scott, you got to start somewhere, man. You got to start at the beginning. You can't jump in halfway through.
No. For
me,
there's a huge amount of growth that happened between those games, though.
That's the thing, dude. Like, for decades now, people are talking about how good the story is. And at this point, I just got to watch a YouTube video and somebody can wrap it all up for me. And then I'll know what's going on. But it's just kind of one of those things. Like, I was very disappointed. Nate and I reviewed it on the show. Nate was talking about how it's a nostalgia trip for him, right? It was fantastic to get back into it. But to go and complete all 3 games, you have to start at the beginning, man, because there is so much between 1 and 2. It's like Assassin's Creed 1 and Assassin's Creed 2. There's a huge leap, right? In quantity and quality of the game itself, going from 1 to the second one, where they kind of really found their niche when it comes to Assassin's Creed. Now we can have a whole other discussion on where it is now, but back then, right, it was hidden blades are in. All of a sudden you have dual hidden blades and you're just like, you're jumping on people from above, and it was just, man, what a leap forward. So Mass Effect coming over, I think, is a huge get once again for Xbox. The Game Pass service continues to just dominate a whole genre and a whole era on its own now, and it's just able to pull in more and more companies, more titles, more. We just saw Forza Horizon 5 hit 44 million players. Oh, Scott, I can't remember now.
I think it's somewhere near there. Yeah.
Right. Like, it was a huge amount of numbers
within the first week.
Yeah, just in launch week alone. And that was due to the fact that I guarantee, but it's because of Game Pass.
Oh, yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, it's such a service to fans. No longer do you have to worry about... Now, this has turned into a whole Xbox Game Pass thing. But either way, Mass Effect coming over, I think, is a huge get. I just wish I could have gotten past the first one. I would have rather a remake than a remaster. I talk about this all the time. Some games in the past deserve to stay in the past. And,
I kind of liken it to what happened with Star Trek. There's the different seasons of Star Trek are quite different, the different series, rather.
Yeah.
So if you want to get into that, well, you might not enjoy the earlier first series. You might not like the second, the new generation. It's just, but there's one in there eventually. It's not Mass Effect Andromeda. That's kind of like Deep Sleep 9 to me. But one of those series, one of the games in Mass Effect you're going to like if you enjoy RPGs.
Well, that's the thing. I've been told to skip 1 and move right into 2. So, and then the ending of 3, which ending do they have in 3 is not the original. I'm sure it's been the remake, because that was a disaster when that launched.
I like to just think about it as it ends at Gilligan Island.
But dude, let's move on to the world of Google Stadia. Happy birthday to Google Stadia. This comes from Sean over The Verge. On November 19th, 2019, Google launched its Stadia cloud gaming service as a work in progress, and is arguably still one today. Yes, that's definitely still a thing, isn't it? But one thing that's consistent and improved is the price of entry, and Google's bringing it down even further to celebrate Stadia's second birthday. You should now be able to purchase a Stadia Premier Edition hardware kit with the Chromecast Ultra and Stadia controller for just $22.22. Who does $22.22? What is 22 cents? Man,
really? I don't like seeing $99.99 on our prices, but
$22.22 in 14 countries, including the US and UK, while supplies last. In the US, you'll be able to get one for free if you purchase any $30 or higher game in the Stadia store by November 29th. Scott, dude, at this point, they're just giving this thing away.
Yeah, well, we need to see the traffic go there so that it increases the developer traffic onto the platform, which was impressive, I have to say, but it's feels like it's kind of slowed down.
No, absolutely. It says Google says it has more than 200 games in the Stadia store and has offered nearly half of them at one point or another in its paid Stadia Pro subscription over the past year. If you started subscribing to the Pro in November 2020 and made sure to claim every game and offer, you'd likely have to pay more than $100 for the access to 91 different games. Google estimates it has cost $2,000 to purchase the same game library. Dude, they got a huge library in there. My Google Stadia Pro just kind of keeps scrolling now at this point because I claim everything, because that's why I got the service.
Yeah, right? Why not?
Yeah. What's next for Stadia? Well, we're eager to continue working on bringing the best games and new features to our community of players so that we can help build a bright future for cloud gaming. That means continuing feature experiments with the goal of making it easier for players to get into games and try Stadia for themselves. We're still learning from input provided by our community and appreciate all the constructive feedback. That comes right from Google Stadia. Scott, where do you lie with the future of Stadia?
Well, I always think back to they need exclusives. That's they need to put their brand on something and make it distinct from the other games. done a good job at extending the net and pulling a lot of developers, a lot of titles in.
Sure.
But not having something of their own, they lack some
hurts.
identity. And that's just, I think that's the real hesitancy that people have to jump in there. You know, Guilt was cool. It was seemingly a one-off.
Yes.
I enjoyed it, and I wanted to see a direct sequel. I want to see other things made by a new studio, but it just hasn't happened, and that's unfortunate. I think the last thing that I played on there may have been Outward, and I did not like that one. No, that wasn't Stadia's fault.
No, it had nothing to do with Stadia. That was the game itself. That game just didn't function the way I was hoping it was. It was so bare bones and empty. But yeah, that was, for me, I'm curious to see what Stadia can do to keep the community going. There's been a lot of up and downs with Stadia. 1 minute you're on the high of highs and the low of lows because there are no first-party games coming. So now you have to buy an exclusive to get to your platform. I think that's the biggest thing. We stated we need to see first-party games. They closed that whole division down, so we're never going to get a first-party game unless they open up a new studio. Which would be surprising.
I have an alternate idea here. Xbox has their xCloud, whatever they choose to call it now, and then PlayStation is working on their own streaming service. Nintendo is lacking in a streaming service. What if? This is a big what if, but they brought Nintendo exclusives to streaming. Well, that would be.
Can you imagine?
Idea.
You stream Mario over on Google Stadia? That'll be quite the little turnaround, Scott.
Dude, yeah, well, hey, if they put a voice channel, a party system on top of that, they've improved the game.
Yeah, let's not talk about Nintendo's online service.
I want to talk trash to kids on Splatoon 2. That's what I want to do.
Yeah, it just doesn't work the way Nintendo, I think, wants their online service to work. And it just doesn't hold the standard where we are at right now. But when it comes to Google Stadia and what they're doing, I think they're ahead of the curve, but I wonder if they're too early. They're trying to build everybody to understand what cloud gaming is like. Xbox is doing it really well because they have such a huge library that they're able to tap in to your own library. That's the biggest thing, right? Where Stadia now, they have over 200 games on their platform, their storefront, which is great. And it's awesome to see them keep moving. But you need to bring over what I feel is an exclusive. But Scott, we talked about it last week. The top 10 played games on PlayStation and PlayStation 5 right now, I think 1 or 2 of them were actually PlayStation titles. So
very low,
right? So do you really need a first-party studio then? Maybe not, right? Look at Steam. Steam they have Half-Life Alyx, and that's only if you have VR. So like that doesn't matter. It's building their library, building the trust and the functionality of the platform. And I think if Stadia sticks with it, they're going to have something there with them because they were the first ones to launch this cloud service because they knew what the opportunity stood for, right? So it's very close. But, dude, let's get into the end of the show. There's a couple more topics. We're going to move those on until tomorrow, I believe, because we have actually a whole one game out for today. Scott, what is it?
Well, you just try and contain your excitement there. I know this comes from a long line of a series that you're really up on. This is Farming Simulator 22. Now, that is coming to the PlayStation 4, 5, Xbox One, XS, Switch, and the before-mentioned Stadia.
It's there. See, there's Stadia. We knew it was there somewhere, buddy. It's the whole simulated genre has everything in it now, and I'm baffled. But I know people who love the farming sim games, and that's what they do. Some of them are actual farmers, and like, yeah, man, I'm gonna go home and play this. You do this all day. That's what
it's like when I worked fast food and tried to play Overcooked. Oh, that didn't work out.
I don't want to do this, but it's funny how that works. But Scott, that's going to wrap up today's show. Everybody, thank you for hanging out with us. This has been ITG Daily, the show that brings you the hottest in gaming news. You can always join us live over at twitch.tv/theofficialITG, as well as YouTube at Inside the Game Official. Can't join us live? Hit us up later. InsideTheGame.ca podcast services, TV streaming networks around the globe. I'm Drew, that's Scott, and we'll see everybody tomorrow inside the game.